Hey guys, I want to thank you for checking out the Jim Powers interview. This one was conducted back in 2008, but I do want to remind you that if you like the Young Stallions, we do have a Paul Roma interview from 2006 that you can check out right now as well. Check out interactivewrestlingradio.com or wrestlingepicenter.com. And of course, if you're listening here on YouTube, click the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, hit all those things, and if you do, you might win a prize. Who knows? I mean, not for me, but you might win a prize somewhere. Do those things. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Velvet Sky, and you're listening to Wrestling Epicenter.
Thank you for everybody who was patient, and Jim, it's great to finally have you on the program.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's Jim Powers, by the way, former WWE and WCW superstar, member of the Young Stallions, so it's great to have you on the show. I can't believe it, but you grew up, or not necessarily grew up, but I grew up where you were basically a local celebrity all the time. Everybody would talk about how anytime I went to an autograph signing or wrestling event, how Jim Powers at the gym taught them how to do a leapfrog or whatever. So, it was really cool to finally get you on the program.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it.
All righty. The first question I have for you actually has to do with this past weekend. We discussed it a little bit yesterday. Why don't we start there, and then we'll go over a couple career highlights and things like that. You were a part of the Legends of the Ring Fest with the now infamous incident featuring Scott Hall and the comment that was made. So what did you make of what was said at the Iron Sheik roast?
Well, I guess talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Our timing was impeccable. Scott, myself, and my wife happened to walk in the side door, and I'm sure the comic didn't realize what he was about to say and said, and made a very, very poor comedic remark or a very poor comment regarding Owen Hart. I think it was something in reference to the Iron Sheik's career fell quicker than Owen Hart. Well, I know a lot of toes curled in that room and a lot of fists clenched as well as mine did. I was very close to Owen Hart, but Scott kind of lost it right there. I know he was close with Owen Hart and the Hart family, and Scott just bolted up towards the stage, grabbed the comic by the throat, put him up against the wall, had him dangling there for a little bit. And being that I walked in with Scott, I felt a little obligated to kind of make sure that he didn't get himself into any kind of real trouble with the law or anything like that. So I'm sure if you see on YouTube, you'll see me close to Scott, trying to, pull him away, but, pat him on the back and trying to kind of calm him down. I don't think there was anyone on that podium or dais or whatever you want to call it, any wrestlers that didn't feel the same way about what the comic had said, but Scott acted out on it. Scott made his point, said what he had to say as far as the statement went, and as he started walking off the stage, him and I were walking away, and unfortunately, I would say in this case, the people kind of got behind Scott in the form of, razor. Well, that's like throwing a dry log on a fire, and all that did was just amp him up even more, and I don't know that was any fault of Scott's, but, it would have been nice if he could have just left at that point after he made his statement, made the point. Everyone was in agreement with him, but that would have been it. But the fact that it got carried on, and again, the people were egging him on by doing the whole razor thing.
Yeah.
That's what kind of made it ugly and didn't look. It didn't make Scott look. It didn't put Scott in the best of light.
No, it kind of, and that's unfortunate because I think we all agree that he did the right thing for getting ticked about it. But oh well, what are you going to do? But speaking of,
there was a room full of us that were ticked about it, but he acted on it. And maybe somebody else would have acted on it, but I guess Scott was the quickest in the room. I don't know, but it was unfortunate that it went on as long as it did. I think if he would have been able to put a period at the end of that sentence or at the end of the statement and the point that he had made and walked out the room, I think that would have been fine by everyone.
Absolutely. But speaking of the way things looked, we saw you there, and geez, you're still looking big and strong, and you got everything going for you. What's going on in the world of Jim Powers? Is Jim Powers still an active wrestler? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing the best I can to keep myself busy on the independent circuit, but unfortunately, the independent circuit is not what it used to be back in the day. What I find is that the independent guys that are putting on shows, they're more of marks than anything else. And I'm sure your listeners know what marks are.
Exactly.
Marketing their money will soon part. I've seen that happen many times. I've seen people lose millions of dollars because of that. There was a company in the Midwest, American Wrestling Federation, and they invested, I don't know, a few $1 million into wrestling, and they lost it because they were marks. And I'm working with a guy now in Brooklyn, New York. He's putting on a show November 15th, which I'll be on. It's called, I think the name of the company is FC Wrestling, and I believe the FC stands for Forgotten Championship Wrestling, something like that.
Yep.
But the website is fcwrestling.net. And we're doing a show in Brooklyn on November 15th, and I'm trying to work closely with the promoters so that we can have repeat business. So basically, I'm trying to keep myself busy on the independent circuit and find one out there that's not a mark, that's a businessman and wants to do repeat business. But what I've seen so far, the independent shows that I've done, it's a one-shot deal, and the show's over, and you don't hear from them ever again. It's not like they plan to do it. I mean, they talk a good game, like we're going to do this, and then we're going to lead into this, and then we're going to have a show down the road, and we're going to build up a feud, and blah, 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 blah. And you get all that, and then you get to the building, and there's 64 people there. Well, hell, you're not going to be able to do a whole hell of a lot with 64 people, so...
yeah, but they make a lot of money on DVD sales, is what I get told whenever I question that. So,
what's that?
Whenever there was a promoter once who he sent me one of his tapes, and I looked at it, and it was literally in the high school gym, and there wasn't enough people to line the ring on one half of the ring, and I said, "Your crowd is kind of bare," and he's like, "Yeah, but I don't make my money from the crowd. I make it from DVD sales." And I thought, "Yeah, right."
Well, I worked for a particular individual not too long ago, and he worked in. There was less than 100 people there. It was a very poor venue. It was like a VFW hall, something like that, with low ceilings and all that. And I understand he does do okay, if not better than okay, with DVD sales. Because if you put a DVD out there for $9.99 or even $4.99, I mean, people go, well, wow, what's $5 or what's $9 or $10? Although in this day and age of the economy, what it is, it's a lot. But anyway, people will go, okay, well, for $5, I'll send in for the DVD and pay, a couple of bucks for shipping. It's not, so so they go with DVDs and the volume of DVDs that they can produce and sell.
Mm-hmm. And
for $5 or even $9.99 plus shipping, I mean, hey, if you're a big wrestling fan, you want to see what so-and-so is doing in this particular day and age, whether it be Jim Powers or Tito Santana or Tony Atlas, or I'm trying to think of Jimmy Snuka or some of these King Kong Bundy, the guys that are on the independent circuit that I see. Hey, for $5 or $10, why not? So more power to them. But they need to take better care of the guys that are wrestling for them and helping them put these, giving them the material for these DVDs. This way they can do repeat business. Why just focus on one show? Why not plan 3 shows out? Why not set up, getting a building for, 3 or 4 events, maybe over the course of 6 or 8 months. But that's not, I'm not promoting wrestling shows, but this is my opinion, obviously, of what's going on.
You're doing these fan fests as well, and you're talking about how a lot of the fans are marks, but a lot of the fan fest guys are marks too. What do you think? Are a lot of these guys going to really ruin the name of these Legends Fests? Because I know they did the one in San Francisco, which was just a giant cluster.
I don't know, but I heard that was. I wasn't invited to that one. I wasn't at that one, but I heard it just became a real mess. What I've seen over the last weekend, this 2 weekends ago actually, it's some of the boys that. And I don't want to mention any specific names because I don't want to bury anybody or hurt anybody. That's not my thing. it's like a reunion of let's all get together and party like we used to, and party like rock stars, and do what we used to, and cut up and do this and drink and party, and it's just like a big party, and they forget about the business aspect of that, why they're there. Someone's paying you to be there. Someone's paying you to show up on time. Unfortunately, I was late to my thing, but that was a misunderstanding with the promoter. Someone's paying you to do a job. Someone's paying you to show up on time. And whether he's a mark or not, do it. Be professional with that. It shows some professionalism, some class. And I think the classiest guy that was there that whole weekend was Don Morocco.
Don Morocco
was nothing but class, and that's why it's been in the business. It's been known in the business, and it's been said countless times, even amongst ourselves, the boys, that the boys ruin it for the boys.
Oh,
so
boy.
If a guy like I don't remember the gentleman's name who ran the show. I think it was two individuals that ran the show 2 weekends ago, and if they didn't make any money, well, the boys just screwed it up for themselves. If he would have made money, and I don't know whether he did or didn't, if he would have made money and he was happy with it, then he'll have another one. But if he didn't make money because someone behaved poorly, someone got arrested, someone carried on out of control, then he's not going to want to do it again. It's like, God, these guys they're like big kids. They don't know how to control themselves. And that's what I see. And granted, I could have gone down that path, and maybe I was that person at one time, but where I am in my life right now and the age that I'm at, I don't fit in with a lot of them. I really don't. I go there, I want to do my job, I want to do what's asked of me. And then if it's cup time or play time afterwards, well, sure, who's not allowed to sit down and cut up a little bit and have a few drinks and reminisce? But I mean, the craziness that went on there between carrying on that Scott did afterwards, and I felt a little bit obligated towards Scott because we had spent some time together, maybe about an hour and a half or so prior to us going into this, walking in the side door to this roast for the Iron Sheik. So I mean, it's just stuff like that that's going to turn a promoter off and not going to want to do these things. I doubt the guy in California, if it was as much of a cluster as it turned out to be, I doubt he's going to want to put on another one. And maybe
I think the FBI is still looking for him, as a matter of fact.
I don't know if he skated with a bunch of money or what.
Oh yeah, he did. The FBI is after him. So if they ever find him,
that's a whole nother. So he's definitely not going to be putting on one of these again.
No.
I just hope that the guy the guy and his partner who ran the convention down here in Monroe, New Jersey, want to do it again. I hope they're happy with what they got. I know they weren't happy with Friday night. I know they weren't happy with the interference at the roast. I know they weren't happy with something on Saturday night with police cars being there, and so I distanced myself from that. I just got it's secondhand news to me that there was police cars there and someone was escorted out of the hotel and made to leave the hotel. Well, I as a promoter of a convention like that, I'd really have to think twice about doing something like that if that was my business, but it's not.
Yeah.
But the boys have always been known to screw things up for the boys. That's been said countless times throughout the years.
Absolutely. Well, you just talked a little bit about the insanity of just FanFest. I'm sure the insanity of wrestling was, wrestling on the road and all that was just as bad. What made you decide to get involved in professional wrestling in the first place?
Well, it was more of a fluke than anything else how I got into it. I used to do security or bouncer at nightclubs in the area that I live in New Jersey, and it just so happened that an individual who used to work for the WWF, he was a preliminary guy. I don't want to give him credit by mentioning his name. Had approached me. I don't think anyone would know him anyway. Had approached me, and he was trying to pretty much scam some money out of individuals by telling them he was going to teach them how to wrestle. And I was always intrigued as a little boy, growing up in New York. I was intrigued, like a lot of little kids are, that with professional wrestling. I would watch wrestling. It was on, I don't know what it was, on Channel 9, or some offbeat channel at some weird hour of the morning. And I would watch wrestling, but I was a young kid. That was what the demographics were back then. And then as I got into my teens, I was obviously intrigued by young girls, so teenage girls. So I lost the professional wrestling thing, but I was had to be in my early 20s, I guess, when this individual approached me at a nightclub that I was working and said, "Listen, Jimmy, you're interested in professional wrestling?" Well, at that time, that's all I was doing security at nightclubs, and being intrigued by professional wrestling as a little boy or a young man, I said, "Wow," I said, "that's something I haven't heard of in years." I said, "Sure, why not?" And I was always physical and, being involved in wrestling in high school and bodybuilding and stuff like that and working out in the gym. And I said, "Yeah, sure. That's something I used to like when I was a kid. Why not try it and see if I can make something of it?" Well, he trained me for a little while, maybe about a month and a half or 2 months. And unfortunately for me, my finances weren't what he wanted from me, and I couldn't afford to pay him anymore. He wouldn't work out in a payment agreement with me or payment arrangement. So he said, "Well, Jim," he says, "I'm sorry," he says, "but I just can't train you because this was our agreement. You were supposed to give me X amount of dollars up front, which you did, and then you were supposed to give me X amount of dollars within 30 days, and you didn't. So I'm not going to train you no more." It was cut and dry like that. And it felt really awkward to sit outside the ring and watch the other guys train. It felt like a real horse's ass. But regardless of him, I continued to work the independent circuit. So I got kind of on the job training,
right?
And kept working independent shows in the northern East Coast. And through a mutual, I was happened to be in a gym in one of the gyms in the area that I go to. A friend of mine owns it, and Big John started to come in.
Really?
Big John started walked in the gym, and only because he was friendly with the owner of the gym, and so the owner of the gym introduced me to John, and John took a liking to me and said, "I understand you do independent shows, and would you like to come with me up to Poughkeepsie, New York, is where WWF used to do now WWE used to do their TV tapings once every 3 weeks. He said, "Would you like to take the ride with me, and I'll introduce you to the booker, who was George Scott at the time, and see if they want to put you on TV." Well, I said, "Sure." Wow, that's fantastic. Great. Plus I made $50 that night. That's wonderful. So they took a liking to the body, I guess, because the work wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they took a liking to the body, and they put me on TV maybe 2 or 3 times a day and beat the hell out of me, and that's how it started. And that was sometime in late '84.
Right. Now, I sent you, for those who don't know, I sent you over a DVD of a lot of the matches that I have for my collection, like Championship Wrestling, which was on the USA Network, I think, maybe even just regular TV, I don't even remember. Taped it way back when. I sent you some matches, and your comment to me about some of those was, "I can't believe they even let me in the ring." What do you mean by that?
Well, because my work was terrible. They let me in the ring because I was a body, and I was good for someone like John Studd or Ken Patera, or I'm trying to think of some of the behemoths back then, King Kong Bundy. It looked better for them to beat a guy like me, who was big, muscular, for what it's worth, had that baby face. It looked so much better for them to beat me than to squash someone who was a little skinny guy or someone. It just looked. I didn't look out of place in the ring with these guys because of the way my appearance, my body looked. But as far as my work, I had to be carried by a lot of guys. Don Morocco carried me for matches. Adrian Adonis, Bob Orton, some of these well-known veterans from back in the day. They would give me stuff. They'd give me a little bit here and a little bit there, whether it be an arm drag or a hip toss or a body slam or a couple arm drags or a little bit of a high spot or a sunset flip. They would give me accordingly because they didn't want to do anything either to make the match look bad. But then again, as a heel and me being a babyface, the heel has to create or build up the babyface. This way, at the end of the match, he's beating somebody. And even if it was a squash job, what they beat was a big guy who looked like a babyface.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that they maybe should do more of that these days? Because it seems like nowadays every single match, every Monday night is a pay-per-view. And it means less.
Yeah, I don't think the pay-per-views mean as much as they used to anymore. If you have a pay-per-view every month, my opinion is the pay-per-views are a build-up or a set-up for Monday night.
Oh, really?
what it looks like. That's from what I see and when I watch it, I'll tape it and just kind of like blow through it like late night when I can blow through the commercials. And I'm not a big fan of the women's wrestling. I know they're very athletic, and I think it's more of a TNA show.
Yeah.
And I don't mean total nonstop action. So I think it's more of that. And I'm sure I'd rather watch the men work, wrestle, and they're very talented. Don't get me wrong; these guys can do some tremendous things that we wouldn't even think of back then. But then again, years ago when you turned on the TV, you were looking at cartoon caricatures. Now it's very difficult to. Don't get me wrong, I love Rey Mysterio, but when he's got a world championship belt on and it covers his waist, it goes all the way up to his neck, it doesn't look right.
You're right, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Should they get back to squashing people and doing that? I don't know. I think they should just give less people a microphone. Just last night I started to watch it, and okay, they opened up with a girl match or a women's match, and then the Jericho's in the ring. He's got a microphone, and a lot of more times than not, they'll open up a show, and 15 minutes later, no one's even locked up. You got one person in the ring with a microphone. You've got 3 or 4 people in the ring with a microphone. Then you got someone on the Titantron, and he's saying something. And it's like at least 15 minutes before you get into any wrestling. Then they cut to a commercial. They come back. So really, you're looking at maybe 17, 18 minutes before you get any wrestling.
Yeah.
So, I think less microphone, because we didn't have it back in the day. Back in the day, you had to suck the people in with your wrestling. And
Yep.
I've always said that you ought to be able to take 2 individuals that nobody knows, these are wrestler A and wrestler B, put them in the ring, nobody knows who they are, and with their work, they ought to be able to establish a storyline, tell a story, and be able to show the people who's the baby face and who's the heel.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, everyone does that, in my opinion, the easy way with the microphone.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion what they need to do, because they got some good talent and they need to settle them down. And I think they started to settle them down a little bit. Where they would work an arm, or they'd work a head, or they'd work a leg. Maybe they'd do a series of moves, which we call high spots,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'd go back to that body part. And now, I don't know, the last couple of weeks from what I've seen, it's just back to action again. They're selling action. They're not selling psychology.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. When did you think it finally clicked for you? When do you think that you were ready for the higher position in the WWF at the time?
I don't know that I ever... I've been asked this before about my position with the World Wrestling Federation. I was just happy to be there. It was something that creeped under my skin, got into my blood, and it was a passion that I had. I never pushed. Only one time did I push the issue that I felt, man, why not me? Why wasn't I pushed like that? Other than that, I was pretty content with being a part of WW, and I'll get back to what that time was.
Sure.
I was content with being a part of the World Wrestling Federation. I was content with traveling all over the world. I was content. The money to me was a byproduct. I would have done it for, I shouldn't say I would have done it for nothing, but there was a time in my career in the beginning where I did do it for nothing because I loved it that much. And I still have a passion for it, although the passion, it's hard when you have a passion for something, there's nowhere to express it.
Yeah.
These independent shows, it's just not enough for me. But I was just, for the most part, I never pushed. So in that respect, I was a bad businessman. Yeah. Maybe it was insecurities about my talent or ability or this or that, regardless of what people say. Jim, you look great. Jim, your work is great. Jim this, Jim that, Jim that, Jim that. So I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to be fired. I just want to be there. I just want to be there. And it's something that I have a passion for. And I've always heard over the years that if you can find something that you have a passion for and make money at it as well, that's a bonus plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to close the door here. Anyhow, yeah, no, I never really pushed. There was just one incident that kind of got under my skin, and that was when Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid had one of the first. I think they had a wrestling match on Raw.
Right.
And 1-2-3 Kid was just brand new, brought into WWF, and they gave 1-2-3 Kid the win. Right in the middle, he beat Razor Ramon. I don't know if it was a title match or not. I don't believe it was a title match.
I think it was just a shock because he just 3 weeks straight he got beaten and he kept changing his name and then yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you remember the match, but he beat Razor Ramon right in the middle of the ring, 1-2-3, quick like that, and he skated out, and that was it. But that to me just really irked me and got under my skin like nothing else ever had. And I said, God, I really got to address this with Vince McMahon. And being the mind, being the mind screwer that he is. Anyway, I approached him and I said, Vince, I've got to talk to you. And he says, yeah, sure, Jim, what do you got on your mind? I said, well, I said, I've been with you all these years. I've had opportunity to go other places. Matter of fact, I did go to WCCW at one time, World Class Championship Wrestling, and came back to Vince McMahon. I said, I've done all these things. I've been loyal to you. Excuse me one second.
Not a problem.
I said, I've been loyal to you and stood by your side, even though I was preliminary middle of the road guy at best. And I'm sitting home and I'm watching Raw on TV, and I see you give 1-2-3 Kid a win over Razor Ramon right in the middle of the ring, 1-2-3. He goes, I says, Vince, I said, you could have done that for me. And he looked me square in the eyes. He goes, Jim, I could have. Period. Now, where do I go from there? So I took a couple steps back and I thought about this and said, Vince, I said, why don't we do this? I said, being that I've been preliminary guy, jobber guy, enhancement talent, whatever it was. I don't know if it was probably after the Young Stallions thing. I would imagine. I think it was after the Young Stallions.
That would have been about 93. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I don't know when the first Raw was, but so I said to him, I said, Vince, I said, why don't I do this? I said, why don't I take about 4 or 6 months off, stay off the TV, and when I come back, maybe we can recreate Jim Powers and do something different with Jim Powers. He goes, sure, no problem. Well, I found myself 4 to 6 months down the road, not getting any phone calls, not getting any return phone calls, constantly calling the office, just wanting my job back. So that's when I realized it is what it is. Either you accept it. This is the job that the company has for you. This is the position they have for you. You either want it or there's the door. And being that I have such a passion for that business and it got into my skin and into my blood, I said, well, I have to accept this. And I did. And I was fine with it. I had no problem with it. It's like when you go to a job, you're not necessarily going to be the manager. You may be an underling. If you're okay with it, you're okay with it. And I was okay with it because I just wanted to be a part of it.
That's a cool way of thinking of it. And I think a lot of times people these days just look at it, oh, well, he lost a couple matches and he's nobody. And I don't think that's really fair. And I don't think they thought that of you because you always had a following. And people, I think, were really happy because you had been on TV for quite a few, at least, 2-3 years before the Young Stallions really started picking up. I think people were really just happy to see you. And I think Paul Roma had been around just about as long, maybe a little bit less time. And I think they were just, say again?
Yeah, it was maybe a 4 or 6 month differential as far as how long he was around. I mean, I think maybe I was there maybe just a few months longer than him. That was about it.
Yeah, so I think we were all just glad to see you guys finally really get a chance. And I don't know. I mean, what happened there? Why didn't the Young Stallions go as far as they could have? Because I know you guys got a chance to beat the Hart Foundation, and it seemed like you won that Survivor Series match. You were on your way, and then kind of like just leveled out.
Well, I tried to. I know Paul's done some interviews on this, and he's got his opinion. He speaks a little bit more harder than I do about it. But I put it best as I think it wasn't like there were any major meetings, not to my knowledge, where they said, well, Jim, Paul, we have this in mind, and we're going to do this, and we want to do that, and what do you guys think? It wasn't any of that. Next thing I knew, all I knew was we were slapped together there. Now, if there's more to it, it's unbeknownst to me. But why it didn't work out, and it had the potential to work out, had the potential to do very well, I think it's just, I believe this to be the truth. That is, you got two individuals that come from two entirely different backgrounds. You know, I was a blue collar guy. You know, I worked in a warehouse. I did, you know, I wore jeans, flannel shirts, work boots, and you know, everything I got, I had to get myself. And when I first met Paul, he took me to his. He had like a 2-story townhouse in Connecticut. I think we were in our mid to late 20s at the time. He had a 2-story townhouse in Connecticut. He drove a nice car. He had a beautiful wife. He had plush carpeting, black lacquer furniture, Lenox china. He had the big screen TV for what it was, you know, the full sectional couch. I mean, I got the impression that he dressed very well. He had the ballet shoes with the tassels. He had, you know, he was. You got one guy from one world, and you got another guy from one world, and you slap them together and hope it works. And it didn't, you know. So the way I instead of beating Paul up or you know putting myself over, I don't do that. I'm not going to do that because we were young. It was 20-something years ago. I'm sure we're different people now, but at that time, it took two immature guys who came from two different worlds, and you slapped them together and hoped for the best. Well, it didn't work out. You know, it didn't work out because we couldn't click. You know, as well as we looked together in the ring, and it would have been $1 million team and all that stuff. If you don't get along as individuals, it's not going to work. And as soon as the office gets wind of that, the office being Vince McMahon, higher ups, they just erase it on paper. It's all done on paper with the eraser, and that was it. And that's the best answer I really have for that. I have no ill will towards Paul. I have no hard feelings towards Paul. I mean, it was 20 plus years ago. We were two different individuals. We were young guys.
So that YouTube video where people, the YouTube video that's out there where somebody is trying to get a Young Stallions match or team or something back together, that's not necessarily done by you. That's not necessarily that you want to fight Paul Roma, pardon me.
No, somebody put something on YouTube or whatever. I think it's a goof, but you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt, you know. And it's cute, and it's, you know, I think the potential for on the independent circuit. I don't think Paul would be. We didn't get a chance much to speak about that, but I think he's very happy in his life right now with what he's doing. I get the impression he's doing some kind of sales, computer technology job, and he's just had a new baby, 8 months old now. And but as far as wrestling together or wrestling against each other, I don't know that he'd be. I don't know that he'd be against it. I don't see why on weekends he wouldn't want to go make a few dollars extra. I don't know. I didn't even run it by him. I didn't get a chance. I mean, it was kind of a hectic weekend, but I don't think in this day and age anybody would turn away extra money if there's such a thing as extra money. You know, but it's not. I mean, people have approached me and said, "Why don't you guys do this? Why don't you?" Well, you know, that comes back to what I had said earlier. You have to find the right independent promoter that's reliable, that you can count on, that you know has a building maybe booked 3-4 months in advance to do something. I mean, there's a storyline there. There's the Young Stallions working together for a few matches over the course of maybe 3 or 4 months. And then there's, of course, you know, as tag teams go, then there's, of course, where the one turns on the other, and then you run with that for a while.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to find the right independent promoter, a reliable independent promoter that's out there. And that in this day and age, and I'm repeating myself, is hard to find.
It seems that way. Let me ask you this question, and I guess we mentioned him. We just had him on last week. It was Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and he was kind of teasing that there's a possibility that if the CMT show does well, that CMT would like Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan to put together a wrestling show, an actual wrestling league of its own. Now, Beefcake was saying, if that happens, I'm on it, brother, and things like that. And he's a little older than you are, and I don't think he's in as good a shape. What would you think? Would you think that maybe if that ever came about, would you ever foresee yourself going back to a relatively full-time wrestling schedule?
Sure. I mean, I don't see why not, especially knowing Hulk and knowing that he's a very down-to-earth person. People ask me about him, and I said, well, to me, he's always been good to me. And for a guy who's worth a few $100 million, he's the most down-to-earth person I've ever met. I mean, he was always nice to me. He's just, I don't see any reason why not. Absolutely. I mean, people have asked me about TNA and stuff like that. Why is it? Well, it seems like a different kind of it doesn't seem like it's something for me. It looks like a young guys, fast-paced, high-flying kind of thing. I don't really watch it, so I don't. I've watched it a couple times, and it doesn't seem like the place for me. Not to say that if they called me or something like that, but I just haven't pursued it. I don't know. I think it's owned by Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett, and I never really saw eye to eye. No, or he's partner. Or he's I don't know if he's the owner or he's part owner or he's up there. Yeah. And Jeff, Jeff and I never really saw eye to eye. So I think I'd be peeing up a rope as far as that goes.
Oh well. All right.
Yeah, so the Hulk Hogan thing, I mean, that would be great because I know Hulk. I know the people he surrounds himself with. I mean, because I saw the show the other night, and I said, well, God bless him. I said, if he's making money, if he could do something with that, that's fantastic. Celebrity wrestling. I don't know if he's how many episodes they've shot or what the long-term goal is with that thing, but sure, if they were going to do a wrestling company, absolutely.
All right. Now, you mentioned why you left the WWF, that it just kind of, you kind of finally stood up for yourself, and ironically, on the forums, people were saying, why was he always used like that? Because his work was always solid and things like that. My comment was, I just think he was always just too nice. Didn't stand up for himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I didn't leave then. They did bring me back. I don't know when that was. They did bring me back. They finally did bring me back, and they put me to work. And I was with them. I didn't get my release papers until, I think late in '94. That's when I was just released from the company. We had just come back from, I believe it was either Singapore or Hong Kong, and I got my papers in the mail and they released me. So they did bring me back. They did bring me back.
You just had enough at that point. Why do you think they released you? You just nothing for you, or what?
I don't know. '84 to '94, not seeing a future, not wanting to do anything. You know what it was too? I ran. I'm glad you bring that up. It just clicked something in my brain. I ran with a rebellious crowd. I didn't run with the goody two shoes. I didn't run with the guys that were kiss asses. I didn't run with those guys. I ran with the British Bulldogs. I ran with Ultimate Warrior. Not that Owen was a rebellious at all. Owen was one of the most, gentlemanly guys as far as wrestlers go. He was a family man. And trying to think of some of the Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude. I mean, some of the guys that were real rebel rousers I ran with. And I think Vince, I was guilty by association, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now I tried to go back a couple of times. I was led to believe that there would be something for me there as far as training a young talent. And now it's been over a year where, they dangled a carrot in front of me that there was something. And then finally I just realized that, there's nothing there for me. But yeah, why, I think I just ran with the wrong crowd and didn't kiss the right ass, There's an uncensored version to that, but I don't want to get to that now.
Oh, right. Now, you showed up in WCW, and they actually billed you. I remember I was watching it, and then I think it was Pro Wrestling. Dusty Rhodes doing commentary, and he claimed you were 28 or 18 or something ridiculous, which everybody knew you weren't because you had been around for a long time before that. And they kind of billed you as one of the young guys, you and Alex Wright and Joe Gomez and guys like that. Did you like coming into WCW and being basically given a completely fresh start?
Absolutely. WCW, it was like night and day compared to WWF. WWF is a very stressful, high tense. It's like your head's constantly in a hornet's nest. WCW was so laid back and so relaxed atmosphere, and it was a breath of fresh air. It really was. And at the time, I believe Kevin Sullivan was the booker, and Kevin Sullivan treated me very good. He treated me accordingly. Diamond Dallas Page had a lot of pull there, so I ended up on a lot of night shows. I think my first Nitro was with Diamond Dallas Page.
Yep. He
requested that I work with him. You know, a lot of the guys wanted to work with me. You know, my work as time went on got better and better and better, and I learned to fine tune my body. You know, with nutrition and different exercising and stuff like that. But they had something they wanted to do with what they called the Young Lions, which I believe was Alex Wright, myself, Joe Gomez, and God rest his soul, Renegade.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess they started that. We did like some kind of corny kind of thing on the beach.
Yeah, kind of like Baywatch or something.
Yeah. It was kind of corny, and they put us. I think we all worked together. We worked together in a 4-man tag in Sturgis against Kevin and the Legion of Doom. Not the Legion of Doom. What did he have there? He had
Faces of Fear.
Morris, and he called it something. I forget what they
Dungeon of Doom.
Kevin.
Dungeon of Doom.
What was it?
The Dungeon of Doom.
Of what of Doom?
Dungeon
of Doom. Okay, yeah, that was it. So he had 4 of his guys. So we had one match, and I think they saw that this thing is just too corny and too gives people cavities. You know, watching us 4 guys. So they just kind of like, you know, broke that up a little bit surely. You know, slowly but surely they broke that up. But that's the only match that I can think of that we all had together as far as a 4-man tag. Or we may have had one other one at Disney. You know, that was about it when they were doing the shooting out of Disney. But WCW, I really enjoyed being with that company. I was treated accordingly, and I was treated fairly, and it was a very laid-back, so calm atmosphere. It was just, like I said, it was a breath of fresh air.
And when you worked there, they actually started giving you a bit of a push. I think they gave you your first manager of your career with Teddy Long, who's still with WWE now. What did you think about finally having a manager? And did you think that maybe if they would have given you the microphone to talk instead of Teddy, maybe you could have done a little bit more with yourself?
No, because Teddy was good for me. Teddy was good. Teddy had some stroke with the office. Teddy was tremendous Teddy's tremendous on the microphone. He was great with that, and I had no problem with him. Actually, Teddy was very beneficial to me being in WCW because he was always pushing for us. But the one thing that happened, and I don't know how this came about, is inevitably or eventually they put me with Bobby Walker.
Yep.
And that I felt the timing on that was bad, and because that's when I thought I was starting to, you know, go up that ladder, the WCW ladder. And somehow, somewhere, maybe they, I don't know the reasoning. Maybe they couldn't find something for Bobby Walker, and they put him with me, thinking that maybe it was I don't know, if it was Teddy's influence, whoever's influence was. But I would have felt better being alone or with Teddy Long, just me and Teddy Long, because it was going well.
Yeah.
It really was. And Teddy was pushing. Teddy was pushing for myself as well as he was pushing for himself. And when Bobby Walker came in, or when Bobby Walker was brought in, I mean, it wasn't his fault. Everything got, I believe my character and my position got diluted.
Yeah.
And from there, it kind of went down.
Now, I did want to ask you, they seemed like they were doing a thing where Nick Patrick was kind of screwing you every week. And I had thought, as a fan, that it was going to be you who was going to get pissed off with Nick Patrick and you were going to be the one to finally wrestle him. And it ended up going to Jericho. And did you think that maybe that would have been better suited for you or no? Or do you even remember what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember the specifics on that, what they were doing with Nick Patrick. I know they had him as a heel man. They had him as a heel referee.
Yeah.
And he was trying to. I think they were going to. I don't know, but I believe that what they were going to do with that is they were going to do something with Teddy Long, myself, and somebody else, and Nick Patrick. But I don't know what they did. I don't know what they ended up doing with that. What did they end up doing? Something with Jericho? You said
they had Jericho basically be the one to steal the thunder. He screwed Jericho. Jericho basically ended up wrestling him and beat him in some match with his arm tied behind his back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a blow-off.
What could have happened at that point in time? See, Kevin Sullivan and Teddy Long are very close. And Kevin was the booker at the time. They went through a few bookers, and then Terry Taylor became the booker, and and once somebody gets put in a position like that, and they just change all things around. I think that's what happened there, because if Kevin was the booker and Teddy was involved in something, it would have seen its way through. It would have been completed. So someone put the axe on that.
Mm. Now, like you said, you kind of were moving up the ladder, and then you were just kind of gone. It seemed like at that time in WCW, a lot of things were going downhill. I'm thinking about '98 time, it just seemed like things started getting chaotic. Some guys were there. The roster was just incredibly huge. And all of a sudden, you just weren't being used as much, it didn't seem, and then just not at all. Were you injured or anything, or what happened that took you off TV, and why'd you leave WCW?
Well, the last match I had with WCW was August 31st, 1998, and that was in Miami, and I was working with Wrath. And we tried to there was a move we did, it was, like a side slam.
Yeah.
And the timing on that was a little bit off, where he grabbed me by the side, and he was about to, when someone grabs you by the side and they're about to slam you, go down with you, when you grab the individual, and boom, you both go down at the same time. Well, what Rad tried to do was get a little height and bring me up a little bit higher on his body. Maybe I was slipping on him, I don't know, with oil and sweat or whatever. And when he tried to, raise me up a little bit higher on his body before we went down, I kind of lost my timing, and my neck went back and hit the mat, and it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. The doctors inevitably found out that I had torn rotator cuffs, herniated discs in my neck, and problems with my hips, and this and that, all the stuff that goes along with being a wrestler for X amount of years. So after that, after going through the surgeries and seeing the doctors and seeing what was going on with the company, with WCW, with the influx of all the NWO and all the characters and everything that was there, and there was talk that something, there was. I don't know who the booker was at the time. I don't remember now. But me personally, after going through 2 surgeries, knowing my neck was bad, all the physical therapy that I'd gone through, hips that were diagnosed that were being bad and all that. Plus, I didn't see my character at that particular time, where Jim Powers was not on the rise like he was when I first got there and when Kevin Sullivan was the booker. I didn't feel as though I was climbing that ladder anymore. I thought I was on the other side of the ladder on my way down. So that's when I decided I'll just take the workman's compensation money that was offered to me and move on. So that's what I did. And I'm kind of glad they released me again.
Now,
that was a judgment call that I made, and I believe I made the right one.
Oh, hey, that sounds like the right thing to do. Take the money and do what you can with it. And what are you going to do?
I wish I would have invested it in stocks and stuff like that, but
not right now. That's not a good idea. No.
Not right now, though. But anyway, I had fun. I had fun time. I have no regrets.
No regrets about wrestling, huh?
No, I have no. Like a lot of us in the wrestling business, sure we have we're not at home a lot. We don't get to see our children grow up as much as we'd like to. Those are priceless times. You can never get them back. Thank God my ex-wife had a video camera and a camera, so I have a lot of pictures and videotapes. But I still, people ask me, well, you got it cost you a divorce, it cost you X amount of dollars, but hey, I'm not the only one. Do I have regrets? Nah, I don't have any regrets, because I don't think there's any other line of work that would have afforded me or given me those opportunities that were there because of wrestling. Wrestling opened up a lot of wrestling for it's a rock star lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Scary at times, which is why we have so many dead wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
It was very scary, but I've been very good with myself as far as being able to come close to the edge, look out, look down, not like what I see and pull myself back. And my saving grace is that I've always kept myself always wanted to keep myself in a certain physical condition. So the gym is a godsend for me.
Yeah.
Because idle hands are the devil's workshop. And if I didn't have the gym, even these days right now, it's not about big biceps or big chests or this or that or that or that. I mean, that, as I said before, that's a byproduct right now. It's more mentally therapeutic, and as it was back then, but maybe I didn't realize it back then. You know, the wrestling business. I have no regrets. I never would have gotten to travel around the world as much as I did. I never would have got to see all the things that I've gotten to see. You know, I mean, I miss some things, but I don't have any major regrets. No, not at all. I miss it at times, but then again, when I think about it, and I go, well, let's say the WWE called and laid it all out on a silver platter for me. Jim, you'll be traveling to whatever 300 days. You'll get to see the world again. You'll be out there, and you'll have a pocket full of money, and all the perks that you had when you were here, you'll have again. And if it were laid out on a silver platter for me, I'd really have to think twice, because it can be very scary. And what makes it what is another thing is when the business is done with us professional wrestlers, the transition to what real life 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever it may be, that's a difficult one. And I think a lot of the boys have a hard time with that. I mean, there's no reason on God's green earth why Kurt Hennig or Rick Rude should have died, because of drugs. These guys had made millions of dollars in the wrestling business. I think it was their passion for the business and the fact that they had a difficult time transitioning to, well, now what? Now what do I do? So, which is kind of like where I'm at right now in my life. Now what do I do? I'm a whole hell of a lot older than I was when I wrestled. And, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with myself now? But I'm sure something will come along. I just keep plugging away.
So you thinking something in wrestling, or you thinking something outside of the business and maybe more?
I had always envisioned that, I would have, like I said, with the WWF or WWE, I had reached out to them about a year and a half ago. I had a regular job, and I had reached out to them. And they gave me the impression that between Ohio Valley at the time and they had Ohio Valley and Mid-South, or not Mid-South, Atlanta, whatever it was called. Between
Deep South.
The facilities they had, that there would be an opening for a trainer for me. And so I left the job I had with hopes that it was going to be there for me. And Johnny Laurinaitis, who I guess is VP of Operations or whatever, I think that's his position with the WWE, contacted me and said, well, at this particular time, Jim, we have nothing for you, but that's not to say there won't be anything for you in the future. Please contact me after WrestleMania, which I did. And so we went through the whole thing. We set up a meeting. I went up to the office. And again, he led me to believe there was something for me down at the Tampa facility. And again, I got the same answer. At this particular time, we had this. I'm giving you the short version because weeks had gone on. I didn't get the answer that particular day. I'll contact you on Friday, or I'll contact you whenever. And Friday came and went. Friday came and went. Friday came and went. And there was nothing for me there at this particular time. But that's not to say there won't be anything there in the near future. So I can only hear that so many times before I realize there's just nothing there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jim, it's been great having you on the show. I want to close out with a couple word associations for you. But before I do, there was a picture that showed up on YouTube that kind of got a little bit of attention. The forum members brought it to my attention as well. You and Mickey Rourke, from Mickey Rourke, by the way, is playing the wrestler. Movie that hopefully will be making a mainstream, nationwide, international as well, really soon. What is the deal with that? Are you in the movie? Did you help him maybe learn how to do some of the wrestling moves that he does, or what was the deal with that?
No, I was on the set on 2 separate occasions, and the one where I had a speaking role. Now, whether it shows up in the movie or not, I don't know. You know how they film so much stuff, and a lot of it ends up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
No, I had nothing to do with training him, but we did do a locker room scene, and we had a couple lines together. And I don't know if it's going to end up in the movie or not. But he's a tremendous guy, nice guy. He wanted to do all the work himself in the ring, which is commendable. You know, I saw it. It's pretty good. So whoever trained him did a good job. I believe he was trained by Appa's camp.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. He was trained by the people in Appa's camp, and he did good. He looked good. His body was in shape. He was a nice guy, just sweetheart of a man. And I just keep my fingers crossed and hope that I know the movie's premiered in 3 locations, one overseas, one in Toronto, and I missed it last week. It was in New York. 2 weekends ago, I missed it. It was on a Sunday. That was the last premiere. When it's going to air, I don't know, or when it's going to hit the theaters, I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't go straight to DVD, but I heard it got good reviews, and I hope that my lines with him are in the movie. I won't know until I see it, though.
All right. Let's close out with a few word associations, if you don't mind. Basically, what I'll do is I'll give you a name, and if you have a story, feel free to share it. If you just want to give a one-word answer, that's cool, too.
Okay.
All right. First name on the list is Jake the Snake Roberts.
Tremendous mind for the wrestling business. The best psychologist in the wrestling business.
How about somebody that you had a really awkward match with, but I think everybody who ever wrestled him had an awkward match with him, the Giant Gonzalez.
Giant Gonzalez. Goofy costume.
Yeah, every week it seemed like the fur kept rubbing off, didn't it?
Oh yeah. I think that may have been, Vince sometimes likes to play ribs on the boys, and they don't even know they're being ribbed.
How about somebody you actually got to get a win over, Bret the Hitman Hart?
Bret, tremendous technician, good guy.
Good guy.
Dysfunctional family. His brother Owen, one of the greatest guys I've ever met.
Well, absolutely. How about?
I cut off the word association you may have mentioned, though. You may be planning to mention Owen Hart, but
I would after what happened with that line. And if I could throw my little 2 cents in about the line that the comedian used, if he was such a big fan of Owen Hart as he claims to have been, you would think that he would know how to spell his last name.
I didn't even see any of that.
He put a thing out there. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I was a huge Owen Hart fan, and he spelled Hart Harte. So he obviously didn't have a clue.
So he wasn't that good of a fan.
No, not exactly.
Yeah, he has damage control.
Yep, exactly.
Well, he's doing damage control.
Absolutely. How about the Warrior?
Intense.
Now, what did you think of him? Was he as bizarre as people say, or was he okay?
Is he? I'm sorry, what?
Was he as bizarre as people say, or was he okay?
He was more bizarre. He was more bizarre than people say. I only know that because I was very close to him.
Really?
Yes, we're very close. We consider each other. I mean, although I probably haven't spoken to him in, I don't know, it's maybe close to 2.5, 3 years. We actually met in New York. He was in here doing a shoot video, and we stayed in touch with each other on the phone. It's been a while since we've spoken, though. But he is one intense individual. I would think that my time that we traveled together, I think probably I probably had the record as far as being able to stay with him was probably like a day and a half. Because he's very intense. Anything he does in his life is intense. You see that, and that's him. That's not an act. That's not if he's in the gym and he's working out, he's intense. Whatever he's doing in his life, he's intense. He's passionate about it. Tremendous businessman, I would say, as far as business goes. And when it came to professional wrestling and his dealings with Vince McMahon, I think he made the most money in the shortest amount of time. Vince McMahon was a mark, or is still may be a mark, for the Ultimate Warrior.
I think the funniest line that Warrior had is did you see that DVD that they released on him, the Hatchet Job?
Self-Destruction of Ultimate Warrior, but there's a story behind that.
Oh, yeah.
The story behind that I had heard, and I spoke to Jim, was that they contacted him to do a pro Ultimate Warrior DVD like they had done on many of the other wrestlers, whether it be Bret Hart, Jake, and something positive. Well, he wanted to exchange, from what he told me, was that he wanted to collaborate with Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon's people because he was working on a project himself as well. And that's not the answer that Vince McMahon wants to hear. When Vince McMahon asks a question, he wants you to tell him, yes.
Let's do it his way.
So what they did was I think they strung him along for 3 or 4 weeks. And while they were stringing him along and playing phone tag with him or calling him when he's not there or faxing him when he's not there, and times he couldn't get back to them and making it inconvenient for him to get back to them because of the time factor, he's out there by you as well. And anyway, they were putting together the self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior.
Now, there was talk that they were going to do that. They actually used that, ironically, as a prototype to get Bret Hart to do his DVD because they said, basically do it our way, or we're going to release a DVD called Screwed, the Bret Hart story.
Oh, well, yeah, that I wasn't aware of, which makes sense. Because, I guess he may have seen what they did with Ultimate Warrior, but initially that project was set up to be a pro Ultimate Warrior. Wasn't supposed to be, I didn't see it, I didn't buy it, I just heard it was all negative. I've seen some clips on the internet, but that's about it. They just pretty much tore him apart. And there was people on there that tore him apart that didn't really know him. I don't know that Hunter had much interaction with Ultimate Warrior.
No.
Other than 45 seconds in the ring when they had the Intercontinental Championship.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't know. There's people on there that spoke out of line, in my opinion, because they really didn't know him that well.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, Bobby Heenan, I heard, buried him. I heard a couple of other people buried him. Yeah. But I don't know if these people interacted with him very much. I don't think Jim interacted very much with many people. The people he was closest to was myself, was Owen, Randy. I don't know that him and Hulk got along too well. But this is all this is my opinion. But as far as the DVD goes, this is what he told me, that they were actually going to put something positive together for him, but because he was reluctant and wanted to share information, they strung him along for a few weeks. And while they were stringing him along, they were putting together a self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior. That was the outcome.
What would you think about maybe appearing on one of these things where they interview people about things? Because I know Paul Roma did the recent DVD about the Four Horsemen. What would you think if they ever asked you to come in, like if they did another DVD on the superstars of the 90s or the 80s or what have you, going on and giving your take and opinions? Would you be willing to appear for a WWE production?
Oh yeah. I don't know what they would put it under. With unsung hero of professional wrestling. But sure, why not?
Yeah.
If I can't wrestle as much as I'd like to, I always get a kick out of talking about it. Obviously.
All righty. We only have a couple more names on the list. You just mentioned them, and how about somebody that I want to ask you a question, and feel free not to answer it, but let's first go through his name. How about Macho Man Randy Savage?
Randy, got along with Randy. Randy's a good guy. He's another intense individual, but not quite to the degree that Ultimate Warrior is. Nobody is. I mean, if Ultimate Warrior is an 11, Randy's maybe a 5 or 6, but still intense. Very overprotective of Liz, which I think in the long run probably hurt her.
Do you think that was those stories true?
She was under Randy's umbrella. Randy protected her very well.
Were those stories true about him sliding her meals under the door or whatever it was?
Sliding her meal under the door. That one I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't think that he was. I got the impression that he was overprotective, borderline possessive. But he loved her. He loved her very much. That I know. How he handled it. It's that's whenever you try to hold on to something too tight, I think you end up losing it when it gets a little freedom.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened there. You hold on to something too tight, and when it finally does get a little taste of freedom, it goes a little crazy. Doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what happened to Liz.
Oh boy.
But I like Randy.
Absolutely. And let's wrap up with a guy that employed you that people either love him or hate him. How about Eric Bischoff?
Really never had too much interaction with him. And the interaction, I remember the little bit of interaction I had with them. I had just started with WCW, and they just wanted to take a look at me for a couple of days, and they did. And I had approached Kevin Sullivan, and with Eric Bischoff was an earshot. And I said, Kevin, I says, can I stick around, or do you want me to come back, or what? And Eric Bischoff interjected and says, oh, Jim, no, absolutely, we want you. And that was it,
Huh.
I love him or hate him is kind of strong.
Yeah.
Like him, never had a problem with him. Never had a problem. Never, maybe I didn't interact long enough with him or hard enough with him to say love him or hate him. But if you gave me a word, love or hate, I don't know. I can't say either one. I got to say like. Never did me wrong.
I did forget to ask you the one thing I wanted to ask about Randy Savage. And feel free not to answer this, but I got the feeling Brian Clark didn't want to talk about it. He kind of sold it. The urban legend that's coming out, and again, feel free not to answer because it is kind of an out there question. The urban legend that's coming out about Randy Savage is the fact that if he releases a DVD, him being Vince McMahon on The Ultimate Warrior, to trash him, he won't even let Savage clips appear on the show. He's kind of like he's trying to erase him from existence. What in the world do you think Vince has against Savage? Any idea?
Vince doesn't. The only thing I could think of is that Vince doesn't like to be betrayed. And if you while you're hot, he's created you. He's created the Macho Man, and he lets you act out your character on his TV, his pay-per-views, and his DVDs and all his stuff. He lets you act out your character on his TV, and you up and go when you're hot, like go from WWF, WWE now, to WCW.
Yeah.
That's betrayal. And he hates that. And that's why I don't think you see Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. If you think about the people that up and left Vince McMahon, the characters that he created, they're very rarely do they get a second chance to go back, and they will. I don't think any one of them that I can think of has ever risen to the level that they were when they were initially there. If anything, what Vince has a tendency to do is destroy the character.
Bring it.
Like when the Legion of Doom, let's say the Road Warriors, they were on their own. NWA, WCW, they were the Road Warriors. They were the best tag team, the hottest tag team on God's green earth. Well, he brought them in here, and what did he do? Right away, instead of Road Warriors, now you're the Legion of Doom. Well, wait a minute. They're the Road Warriors. Well, no, you're the Legion of Doom. Instead of wearing these black and silver spikes, you're going to wear red and black. As little as, or as minute as you may think that is, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And then the pathetic thing that I saw was they got another chance to come in. I don't know how many years ago. Obviously it was before Hawk died. And they did a squash job for somebody within, I don't know, a couple minutes. I think it was Rosie and Jamal.
It was either them or I forget who it was. It might have been them.
Philadelphia. It was at the Philadelphia Arena. And they came in and the music and all that. Plus he changes their music. He tweaks. If Vince McMahon did not create you, he's going to destroy you.
Yep.
If he created you and you leave him and try to come back, he's going to try to destroy you.
I think that's probably the case with Goldberg too. He tweaked his music, he tweaked his look, and it just didn't work.
Right.
Yeah?
And it's not the same person. It's the same person, but it's not the same character. People want to hear, and I forget who initially asked me, but he asked me about Randy. Randy, because Vince created Macho Man Savage, and Vince let Macho Man Savage run wild, make a lot of money. Macho Man Savage was on top. Then Macho Man Savage leaves him. Even Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan would never rise to the level that he was ever before. Okay, maybe it's for physical reasons or whatever, but Hulk Hogan came in and it was kind of like questionable with Hulk Hogan, and he'd pick and choose his opponents. It wasn't like he was going to You know, he was just there for like pay-per-views and big events and stuff like that. But how much did he really draw? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So my opinion is, if Vince McMahon created you and you leave him, you betrayed him. He'll take you back, but he's going to screw with you.
Oh yeah.
Go
ahead.
If he didn't create you and you come to him, he's going to try and ruin you because he didn't create you. I mean, Ric Flair. How many years did people wait for Ric Flair to come to the WWF? And how many years did people want to see Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan go at it? Well, when Ric Flair got here, they did know Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. They may have had a handful of matches. That's it.
Yeah, they had I think it was like a Madison Square Garden exclusive, or it was on the MSG channel.
No, but it wasn't like the big build-up. That he's not going to give people that. He's just that kind of an individual where he's not going to do that. It's a power trip. I've got something you want to see, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Yep.
So.
Oh well.
That's it.
All right. Last question for you, and this is another kind of one of those answer it if you want, answer it if you don't. Chris Benoit thing that broke about a year and a half ago now. The media pounces all over wrestling. You got Nancy Grace talking about it for 6 months, talking about how big of a wrestling fan she is while calling a picture of the British Bulldog Road Warrior Hawk, obviously having no clue what she's talking about.
Right.
What do you think about the way the media pounced all over pro wrestling and maybe the way that they portrayed it? Do you think that it was fair? Do you think it was unfair? And why do you think that they were so eager to attack?
I think it was unfair, number one, and you had ignorant people, and by ignorant I mean people that don't know pro wrestling, talking about something, talking about pro wrestling. Why wrestling's always been wrestling? They've been wanting to attack wrestling, I mean, since 1990 when Vince McMahon was involved in a steroid scandal. It turned out to be nothing. It turned out to be a box of steroids coming from a legitimate doctor. Why want to pick on wrestling? I don't know, maybe because they don't understand it. Maybe it's something you don't understand. And the Benoit thing, if I met Chris, and Chris was a stand-up guy, Chris was a tremendous individual, and I don't know that people may hear this and go, well, Chris was a murderer, Chris was this, Chris was that. Not the Chris Benoit I know. That wasn't the Chris Benoit I know. I don't know what happened to him. But if you would have met him, you had spent 3-4 minutes speaking to him, you'd love him. What happened? What snapped? It wasn't roid rage. That's ignorance speaking. That's the media and ignorance speaking about roid rage. I don't know what it was. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it was. I think it was unfair. I think there was probably more to it than meets the eye, than meets the ear. The media, why they attacked it like that? It was just a sensationalized story.
Yeah.
The media doesn't go after positive things.
Yeah.
The media goes after negative stuff. Negative stuff sells. Positive things end up on the back page of a newspaper. Negative things, front page news.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All righty, Jim. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. Now, what do you have in store? What's coming up in Jim Powers' world, and where can we find out more about that?
Well, I'm doing this wrestling show. The only thing I've got something in line right now is a wrestling show, November 15th. It's in Brooklyn, New York. You can go to the website. It's fcwrestling.net, and it'll give all the information as to the venue, location, street address, and all that, phone numbers, contact information, tickets, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. That's the only thing I have on the horizon right now.
All righty, and I think you have a MySpace?
Yeah, I have a MySpace account. I forget about my MySpace account only because I don't deal with it very much. I have an individual that handles that stuff for me, and I think it's the Young Stallion Jim Powers, or the Young Stallion Jim Powers.
Cool. All righty, and be sure to add him as a friend. And guys, thank you for listening. And Jim Powers, thank you for finally coming on the show. We loved having you on. And if there's ever anything else we could do to help you out in the future, please just let us know. We'd love to help you out.
James, thank you very much. I'm glad we finally put this thing together.
All righty.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. If you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.